Okay, Hawaii Volcano Squad on the air with this is going to be a live event conference or just basically a rant if nobody stops by to check it out. We're going to be covering what was supposed to be the Drake case in the Supreme Court, and it's in limbo right now. I'm looking at the orders for today, and basically this case is the issue in the Drake versus Jerejian case, which is a New Jersey handgun carry permit case. And the issue is, one, whether the Second Amendment secures the right to carry handguns outside the home for self-defense, and two, whether state officials violate the Second Amendment by requiring individuals wishing to exercise their right to carry a handgun for self-defense to prove a justifiable need for doing so. Just defending yourself might not be justifiable. That's not good enough. Well, that's the case, and it's before the Supreme Court, and this is the second time they haven't done anything. So on April 1st, that was the last reply of the petitioners, Drake's reply, and on April 2nd, it was distributed for a conference on April 18th. And that passed, and they redistributed again, bumped it for conference on April 25th. And those orders, basically, these are Friday conferences with the Supreme Court, and they're closed. Just the justices, and maybe a clerk. And they have these conferences, and so far I am not looking at another listing of a conference. Now, the result on Monday's orders, is that they have done nothing so far. They failed to act. They have not confirmed, accepted the appeal, or denied it to hear the case. And this is pretty much of a big hot potato, one would think. Because when you think about it, I know they have grounds to move cautiously, but that one makes sense. But to not hear it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of splits in all the federal courts, and unless they just plan to ignore the issue, they're going to have to hear it, and they haven't agreed to do that yet. But they haven't, basically nothing. And I'm looking for another listing of redistribution of conference for another conference. Firing Line's website says it has been relisted for May 2nd, but I don't see that anywhere on the Supreme Court website. So I think the poster was Jim March on there. But I'm looking at the SCOTUS log for the Drake case, and there right now, and there's no relisting. All right. So no relisting for this case. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the impact and the result effects of this case will be, one way or the other. I mean, if they don't hear it, then they're pretty much going to basically leave it to the federal courts for each district to decide for themselves, and that doesn't make sense because it's not states' rights, because each district covers multiple states, and none of the states agree with each other. So now I'm going to talk about what happens if they were to actually hear this case and it were to be, they decide that Drake doesn't need to prove a justifiable need. Then basically that would render every state that requires that justifiable need, like where I live, Hawaii, to be instantly, all these laws would be unenforceable that they have on the books. You could still get arrested for doing it, but when you went to court, you just tell the judge, look at the Drake case, and they would, you'd walk for violating the state laws if basically these laws are unenforceable. I mean, and if they knowingly arrest you, that's false arrest. So none of these laws are enforceable. If the Drake case actually gets appeal approved and there's an argument, and unless they figure out a way to split the baby, I think this is a hot potato for them, because when you think about it, I don't think the states are prepared. It's like if the states aren't prepared for them to rule that there is no all their laws are unconstitutional for requiring justifiable need. That's a lot of states that are instantly going to be open carry, because all the carry laws will just not be in conflict if they rule this way. And you have 5 Supreme Court justices sitting on the Supreme Court, that are strict constructionalist conservatives, and I think they need to proceed carefully, because once they issue this ruling, if there's no delay, if they don't allow a 6 months period or something for the states to comply, if they just say, okay, this is the way it is now, these laws are unconstitutional, then every state's laws will be unconstitutional. The states can claim, well, for some reason it doesn't apply to us, but this is the Supreme Court we're talking about. There's no place to appeal to. So they're going to have to comply with it, and if they don't, they're going to be sued. And, so I don't think you're going to have to go to every county like they're doing right now. Because right now, if you don't like your county's handgun permit carry laws or open carry laws or concealed weapons, if you think they're unconstitutional, county by county, you have to go percolate up to the federal, through the district court, and appeal to the federal court, and all the way you fight it to the Supreme Court. They don't want to do that. And I mean, that's a lot of counties. There's a lot of counties in America, and if they all have to go one by one, that doesn't make any sense. So they need to heal the rifts in between the various circuit courts somehow, whatever they rule, and they have to rule in such a way that the counties aren't going to have to each one percolate up to the court system. I'm getting my energy drink up here to get going. Now, I'm still looking, and I'm still not seeing any relisting on a blog. Let's see. I'm going to quickly go through and check the blogs. And I'm not seeing anything still. Order list, the 28th. Nothing. Orders on pending cases. Nothing. We got a ton of cases that were denied, but Drake isn't in there. So we got a few things we can talk about here on this rant here. So we have like the Second Amendment kind of in limbo as far as carrying goes, because until I actually see it on the Supreme Court website that it's been relisted, it doesn't mean it's dead. But if they don't approve it and they don't deny it, I don't know, maybe it's not a pocket veto. Maybe they're just afraid to do anything. I wouldn't be surprised. We were talking about everyone in America carrying a gun. And, so they have reason to proceed cautiously, but they have to follow the Constitution. That's what they're there for, and I believe they all take that seriously. Especially the strict constructionalist. And I'm checking again. Let's go to this blog in the firing line, and I'm not seeing any relistings. Checking, right? Well, basically, with Jim Martin, the firing line says it's been relisted, and it's still alive. But I don't see it on the court's website, so that's where it counts. Not a bulletin board somewhere, but let's look under hearing lists on this website. No, that's April. Well, they don't even have the May up yet. All right, so we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. It's going to be interesting if this thing does eventually get reheard. They were saying that several cases have been, kind of like held in limbo for quite some time, and before they decide. So it just seems strange that they wouldn't hear this case. Do they intend to leave all these different court rulings to be in direct conflict with each other? For eternity, so it's really hard to tell what's going to happen on this. I already delayed this chat for 1 week, but we had a few things we can talk about. And now I did read the and I recommend there's a 214-page. If you want to plow through it, the big Second Amendment Supreme Court cases were Heller, District of Columbia versus Heller, and McDonald versus Chicago, Illinois. And these were the two big victories for the Second Amendment. And now in reading this case, the part that really struck out to me was in these cases, there's about 214 pages worth of argument and minority opinion, and the thing was that this whole thing is kind of like it has to do with the 14th Amendment, and everybody keeps talking about the Second Amendment, but really the 14th Amendment is what is considered the anti-discrimination clause. But what it was is that in 1860, after the Civil War, what happened is all the southern states, after having lost the Civil War, and Lincoln freed the slaves, they didn't want black people owning guns. So they systematically, in all the southern states, passed laws systematically denying the right to own a gun or carry a gun to black people. And so first, before they passed the 14th Amendment, the Congress, was the 31st Congress, the 33rd, whatever, they passed the Freedmen's Bureau Act and the Civil Rights Act, which was, or was it the Equal Rights Act? But both of these acts basically were trying to do through legislation what they really needed, this constitutional amendment, and eventually they figured out that the legislative remedies weren't enough, and they passed the 14th Amendment. Was basically that a Civil Rights Act so that against discrimination, so that black people could own guns. And it's ironic that a black president is trying to systematically enact gun control, when the 14th Amendment was specifically enacted so that black people could own guns. Because within the South, what they were doing was, first they would seize their guns, take their guns after they passed these laws saying that black people couldn't own guns, and then they would flog them out of town or injure them, intentionally injure them, and that's all in the court. I don't know to what extent it was, whether they would hang black people that own guns, or just lynch them from a tree, or just beat them up and get them to flee the state because they weren't happy about losing the Civil War. And at the time, that racism was even worse than it is now. And if you can believe that, of course, I'm going to start to go on the NBA, switch to NBA and the Cliven Bundy racism stuff in a little while. But really, this 14th Amendment is pretty important, I think, and because it's used for anti-discrimination laws, but it was, again, originally passed so black people could own guns, and states couldn't just take people's guns and then hang them. First turn your guns and then we're going to beat you up or hang you, from the nearest tree. It's like you want to see people not comply with the law, and especially doing it to just one race. I mean, that's racism in the worst possible form. And so they passed this amendment, and it was the abolitionists in Congress in the North that passed it. And so the 14th Amendment also basically says, applies specifically, subjugates the states to follow federal court laws, because the contention at the time was that the Second Amendment was a federal law, and that only applied to Congress making federal laws, that they couldn't, make laws limiting that. It had nothing to do with the states. So the 14th Amendment specifically applied the Constitution to all the states, and all the states had to follow the Second Amendment. And before they could claim that, no, we don't have to follow the Second Amendment because we can have our own laws on gun rights because that's a federal law and doesn't apply to states. So now federal laws apply to states because they wanted to take guns away from black people. And so it's really ironic that Obama is pro-gun control, and it's being a constitutional law professor. I don't see how he can't see the irony, unless he's going to be hypocritical about it. He has to know about these things. So anyway, let's see. I don't know if anybody's going to wind up watching this rant, but I'm going to move on to the NBA here now that we're on racism. And I don't know if you guys have heard the TMZ. I know you've heard about it, but have you actually heard the TMZ recording of the guy? He's on the phone telling his black and Mexican girlfriend, mixed race girlfriend, that he doesn't like black people, and he does. But she says, "But you love me, and I'm black," The guy has no brain. He has lots of money, but no brain. I mean, and this, it's not the day and age that we live in. It's that, I don't know. Wise men have the power to reason away. If like, nobody's perfect, but wise men have the power to reason away these racist concepts. I mean, the concept that one race is inferior or superior to another race, scientifically, it doesn't make any sense. Logically, it's impossible. People are different, but I mean, how can you date somebody, love somebody, but but not want to associate with anybody of their race? I mean, it makes no sense. And since he has a history of race problems, they're going to flog him out of the NBA, I think, at some point now. I mean, or just, they're going to have to do something, because they can't screw over all those players there. But I think that LA, when it comes right down to it, LA doesn't need more than one team. So just take all the players and send them to the Lakers, because the Lakers could use Chris Paul. They were supposed to get Chris Paul before the former NBA commissioner came in, and they had a deal for Chris Paul, and then the NBA commissioner said, "No, I'm sending him to the Clippers." Thanks a lot. Now we have one team that is like, needs to apply for Obamacare because everybody's in the hospital, which is the Lakers, and the other team, which needs to have the 14th Amendment applied to their owner. Fucking idiot. And how racism is just stupid. I mean, and I mean, there's probably insults for every race, religion, country of origin, sexual orientation, you name it. There's insults, and I'm not going to say them all, but we know what they are, and it's just, like I said, wise men have the power to reason away. If a racist thought crosses your mind, because it probably will at one point in your life if it hasn't already, then you reason that away. Use your mind and try not to be stupid. I mean, this guy's going to lose his whole basketball franchise because we're not talking about an insignificant amount of money here. Hundreds of millions of dollars. So he's going to lose his whole basketball franchise. Whether they take it away from him or he just sells it for some price, or they just, nobody's going to want to go to Clipper games, and I don't think, I think the Staples Center is going to just boot them out at some point if it's not fixed. But they're going to give the commissioner some time to deal with this guy, and I take it his girlfriend is staying with him because he's rich. Now that I could at least understand, but as far as the Cliven Bundy thing, that whole thing just never passed the smell test with me. And I know everybody jumped on the wagon, and there's a lot of vouching on the internet by all the some YouTubers, and stuff, and big YouTubers, YouTubers know what drives their viewers. We know what people like to hear, and this might not be it, but the Fox News knows what drives their poll ratings, so they were all over it. And there was but let's face it, it's not about state rights and whether Harry Reid is trying to promote some. The whole thing never passed the smell test. I don't believe anything that anybody said on YouTube at all. I don't believe anybody on YouTube, pretty much. Take everything you hear on YouTube with a grain of salt, especially me. But with this thing, I mean, you have to, and everybody was so, it's like a lot of people looking for something to protest that are just pissed off about a lot of things, and here was the place where they could all meet, and I think the federal government did the right thing for the first time in just leaving, because they were the ones stoking the fire, and the BLM is clearly out of control. Bureaucracy that's gone kind of run amok. But being that as it may, you be careful who your heroes that you pick are, because if you want some tactical guy in a beard, some young boy to teach you how to say, oh, this gun is cool, buy this one, or look at my beard, I must know what I'm doing. There's a lot of that on the internet, and I think people need to learn from all this and you guys have 2 feet, so take one step at a time. Put one foot in front of the other, and don't rush into this shit. And because you're gonna wind up looking stupid. You're gonna wind up with egg all over your face. It's like all of a sudden you went from supporting an oppressive BLM, which the whole thing was about, to banning, to saving the desert tortoise, to not liking Harry Reid, to all of a sudden you're in the KKK. How did that happen? You got to be. You take one foot step at a time. And as far as all the vouching I heard over by a lot of people for this Bundy guy, and I mean before the whole his little racist rant came up, you just be careful who you pick your heroes are, because they're just regular people and they make mistakes. I know I've made mistakes, but that's why like I said, if you want some young kid with a tactical beard, you're listening to the wrong channel. But and as far as the NBA case goes, obviously that happened. That tape was released on account of a lawsuit that he's suing somebody who embezzled him. He says for 6 figures, no, 7 figures. Lawsuit, and so some lawyer decided to release this and drop a bomb on the NBA during the playoffs, and drop a bomb on America, therefore. So, as far as when it comes to lawyers, I have a whole thing on that. But let's see, what else can I talk about now? We've gotten the great case, which is in limbo. I'm going to check the blog on that again, by the way. We solved racism in the 14th Amendment, right? Now everyone has equal rights, so everything's all fixed. Yeah, right. We have a black president, and it's still not fixed. Well, the country may be messed up, but it's still better than any other country on the planet, if you ask me. And Let's see what else we can talk about. Okay, I'm not seeing anything on SCOTUS blog for a new conference on May 2nd. Just this one guy on the firing line, Jim March, and somebody else saying May 2nd. Let's have another look at this real quick. I'll look it up for you guys. Yeah, there's another week, same time, same channel, popcorn optional, right? Yeah, well, sure would wish they would do something, you know. So I'm going to be doing so. I got to get to the range and do some shooting. Got a new revolver and it looks like a blast. And let's see. What else is happening? Oh yeah, Vladimir Putin, Ukraine. Jesus, here we go again. This guy is like amazing. He throws. You know, it's like this guy is throwing a grenade, a live grenade, into a warehouse full of ammunition. And guess what? He's going to be surprised. Anybody going to be surprised if it goes off? And all the idiots in Europe, you know, this is what they do in Europe. They wait for, you know, a war to start. Then they scream for America because they can't keep themselves out of this shit. You know, and you know, it's like, well, we don't want to enact sanctions like on Russia, you know, because well, you know, they're afraid of the economic fallout. It's inconvenient for them to do so. They've got a lot of companies telling them not to do it, even if they know that this could start World War III. They're just going to hope that World War III doesn't start. But somebody is already, and it's like, if you looked at my initial Red Dawn invasion Ukraine video, like, you know, from a month or two ago when this whole thing started, Crimea, Red Dawn invasion Ukraine, right? And well, guess what? You know, he's not going to stop, you know, and so I was wondering how long until somebody blames the Jews for all this stuff. And yeah, it doesn't matter which side. That both sides are pointing that the Russians are saying, "Oh no, it wasn't our guys, it was the Ukrainians." And you know, Russian state TV has pictures of, you know, Nazi swastikas marching all over Russia. So, and they don't have a free press. I mean, our press, what passes for news in America sucks, but you know, it's not like state propaganda officially, you know, and they sent out on the internet, they have, you know, a wave of spies, you know, the internet propagandists, you know. So I posted a rant in the AK forum because there's a lot of people from Moscow, and I think they don't like me in Moscow. My rant was pretty good, I think. I need to pull it up and maybe read it for you guys, you know. I also posted it in the with a couple modifications in the survival of forum. What is it? Preppers. Check my internet here. Let's see. Prepper forum. Where was my rant about the? Where was my incredibly awesome rant on Ukraine? You thought the rant and the Red Dawn invasion Ukraine was good. I pissed off like every Russian in the AK forum with that rant. They were not happy. Let's see. I posted in general talk, I believe. Let's see if I can find it. Somebody was bashing America, you know, like usual. There's this wrong with America. It's like they're almost, you know, some commie pinko bastard. But let's see. Ukraine. Here it is. Leaflet tells Jews to register in East Ukraine. You know, okay, they said it was forgery with spelling errors. Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, here it is. Yes. 1 month ago, I posted this on the AK forum in reply to a Moscow-based internet propagandist that were posting Putin state's media line. Fuck Putin and fuck Russia. So I'm going to read my own rant here. Fuck Putin and fuck Russia. Speaking as a person whose family was actually in a Siberian gulag in the Archangel Forest, in a Russian concrete factory work death camp, and someone whose grandfather actually fought for the Red Army in a Polish unit under Russian command against the Nazis in World War II, I make the following statement to those Russian imperialist fascist propagandists who have never so much as fired one shot in actual combat. I feel sorry for the AK Forum if the moderators care less about human dignity and freedom of mankind and more about their international members, i.e. Russian propagandists supporting the dictator Putin, who has his fascist boot on millions of innocent people, journalists in gulags for reporting actual news, disagreeing with the new imperial czar of Russia for being of the incorrect ethnic background, race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, or simply some girls who sang a song in a church. Do the moderators of the AK Forum prefer to supplicate themselves to these fascists than deal with nation after nation being put under the military boot of this fascist Putin KGB pig? I had posted Charlie Chaplin's Humanity speech, and you get that on YouTube, by the way, and not one comment appeared in the best, most applicable film moment ever dealing with dictators like Putin. So yeah, fuck Russia, fuck Putin, and fuck the imperialists in the Kremlin. Fuck the KGB, GRU, and fuck the FSB. FSB, fucking shitty bureau. Fuck the Kremlin's propagandists that post on the forum, and if this political statement of how freedom-loving Americans actually view the Kremlin seems harsh, it's nothing compared to the beatings, shootings, unjust imprisonments, torture of anyone who gets in Putin's way. As American citizens, we breathe the free air, and the love of humanity is in all of us regarding of race, creed, or religion. We can speak our mind and oppose any dictator. We can defend ourselves, and we fear only God, not the Russian army. I can't think of a more clear and concise phrase expressing my disgust at the Russian fascists than fuck Putin and fuck Russia. And if the moderators prefer to kowtow to their international Russian members and stand up for human rights and dignity of mankind, then so be it. And I leave you, the AK Forum, to their own consciences. And let's see, I only want to add that what binds America together is freedom. You fight for your neighbor's freedom, he fights for yours. Doesn't matter what race, creed, religion your neighbor is. Russia is all about ethnic Russians. The biggest disaster to befall Russia was when nobody codified freedom into Russian law after the Soviet Union fell. It's all about Putin's cult of personality now. No one ethnicity can dominate the world because on this planet there are more people wanting to be free than there are ethnic Russians. And if you look at their economy right now, it's tanking. Putin needs to that was my rant anyway, but Putin needs to start all this nationalist fervor because his economy growth is zero. The ruble is falling like a dead weight. They can't sell bonds. The Crimea is going to be a dead weight. They have to pay billions and billions of dollars to try and get Crimea up. And all these people in Ukraine that, are the ones that aren't Russian agents, speak ethnic Russians, they can't, Putin is not going to have the money to even get Crimea. And if trying to, considering how screwed up Ukraine is, we should just let them in, say, go ahead and have Ukraine, and just have, put the tanks right up against the border for all the other countries, that are actually NATO members. We're not going to stop them, but I don't know, they might think twice if there's a, I know the Russian army outclasses the Ukrainian army by a highly factor, but they do have tanks, and you're talking about 12,000, 20,000 Russians, special forces going up against, 20,000 less trained people, but they do have tanks and guns. So there's no doubt who's going to win, but there's going to be a lot of dead people all over the place. And like I said, you throw a grenade into a building full of explosives, it's going to go boom. And it's not. This isn't going to be like just one person gets shot or two people get shot, but like that leaflets that went in, and I think the Israeli Prime Minister talked to Putin. His only concern was that not everybody started slaughtering Jews on both sides and blaming them for everything, and obviously both sides are blaming each other for that. Putin saying that, or for whoever passed out that leaflet saying that Jews have to register. I mean, it's like sending out a letter to right now, with all this racism in America, stuff in America with the NBA and Cliven Bundy. It's like saying black people have to register. I mean, how incredibly stupid would that be? Nobody's going to register and pay $50 to register for being black or Jewish or anything. That's one thing I don't like about the NRA, or not the NRA, the permit form. Like, I don't know, in Hawaii, or even basically you have to fill out what race you are. I think that's optional, but there's a checkbox for Hispanic or not Hispanic, because I guess of the problems they have along the border. But with the cartels along the border, but it's so the world's a mess. What else is new? The world was a mess before we came into it, and the world was screwed up. It's going to be screwed up after we go out. So I think the only thing that we as Americans have to cling to is our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, and we really just need to try and follow it. So as far as that goes, that's about all I have to say on this one. I'm going to recheck before I log this thing off on I'm going to log this thing off as soon as I check the SCOTUS blog and firing line and the Supreme Court website here for any new orders regarding a May 2nd conference on the Drake v. Jerejian, New Jersey case. And I do encourage everyone track you and look up the PDF file for the District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus Chicago, Illinois cases, and just read about the 14th Amendment there, and in Chicago, they obviously whatever they're doing isn't working, because that's where all the gun violence is, and they have these strict gun control laws. They have whatever their problem is there. It's not gun control isn't fixing it. So let's see here. Okay, checking firing line. Yeah, nobody's showing where it is. Checking the court orders again. I'm gonna see. Here's the order list. That's the only thing showing is the original order list, unless they changed it. Summary dispositions. Right, Vicky, Robinson, Waddell, Rogers, Daniel, Carlson, Vega, Lundquist, Avery, Lundquist. Orders of pending cases. Yeah, I don't see Drake anywhere. They only granted 2 appeals. Looks like Yates versus United States and Jasinowski versus Countrywide. I don't see the relistings yet. They denied a bunch of stuff, but Drake isn't in there. So the Drake case is in limbo, apparently. Some people are saying it might be heard on the 2nd again. It's been rescheduled, they say, but I haven't seen that rescheduling on the SCOTUS blog or firing line. I mean, I haven't actually seen a link to anything. Let's see. Let's refresh this SCOTUS blog page. Yeah, just the last thing that's shown is the conference for Friday, April 25th, 2014. And every Friday they have a conference, and every Monday they publish the order from the resulting from the conference. So this one, click on the home page, but I don't see anything on Drake. So basically, not much to add right here to what I've said. So we've covered invasion of Ukraine, which could start World War III. Handgun, they still won't let it. If World War III starts, they still probably won't let us carry a handgun, and it probably won't make any difference. But you know, wonder if that would be considered a justifiable need. Probably not. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on any. Let me just hit the general law and civil rights in the firing line. Yeah, the last person to post was Jim March. Let's see. Nothing. Okay, well, so I assume that next Monday, after the May 2nd conference, maybe they'll say something. They could just issue an order at any time. It could be just, boom, there's an order appears, and then somebody is just scanning the Supreme Court's website will notice that, oh, they issued a new miscellaneous order. There's a bunch of these miscellaneous orders. But Monday they published the main order list from the Friday conferences. So, they could just randomly at some point during the week issue an order denying or approving an appeal. How they pronounce this? Certiorari. Sounds Latin. Certiorari. Fucking, lawyers have to speak in Latin, so you have to pay them to understand what the hell it means. But obviously that's the word for an appeal. That means we'll hear what you have to say, at least in this context. So I guess we're going to find out at some point, because right now it looks like it's in limbo to me, this case. And with all these conflicts, fractures in the court, they have to be healed. They can't keep this in suspension forever. They have to. I mean, they could just take no action on it. I guess it's theoretical. It's a hot potato, and maybe they're not ready to deal with it at this moment. But given the importance of the case, they have reason to proceed cautiously. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward case. They might just do the head count and know how it's going to turn out, and then think the states aren't ready for them to rule that way, and it could cause total chaos. So there might be some things for them to consider, but they ought to at least say what schedule another conference or something, or let us know what is going on. But this is the secrecy of the Supreme Court, I guess. Like, you'll never know what they're actually wearing under their robes, and we'll never know what actually was said in the conference. So, but it's not on the order list, and it's hasn't been rescheduled on the website yet, even though somebody on the firing line says it has. So, I guess we'll find out next week. Tune in, same bat time, same bat channel. Too early in the morning for popcorn, man, but aloha from Hawaii. This is the Hawaii Volcano Squad, and I'm out.